Okay, we are live.
All right. So welcome, everyone. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Peter Kociba. I'm an assistant professor of international relations at the University of Pécs, Hungary, and I will have the honor to chair this session 11 entitled as Eastern Mediterranean and the Balkans. We are going to have three very interesting topics. I reviewed all of your abstracts. I think we will have an interesting discussion at the end of the session. About the time frame, I received some instructions. I would like to ask every speaker to try to keep the 15-minute limit. And after the presentation, we will have about 20 minutes for discussion. Okay. I prepared two questions for each speakers. The first questions are related to your specific topics. And the second questions are related to the Ukrainian and Russian war, or Russian-Ukrainian war. And I think it's quite, interesting to discuss how this Russian-Ukrainian conflict is related to your issues, how it affects your specific topics. It basically indirectly or directly influences a lot of matters in Europe and in terms of global international relations. Hopefully, we will have time also to discuss these general questions. So, but first, let's start with the presentation. Let's hear your presentations. And we will start with the Ecem İpekçi. I hope I pronounced it well. The title of the presentation, The Impact of Energy Resources in the Eastern Mediterranean on the Cyprus problem. So Ecem, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes to discuss.
Okay. First of all, hi everyone. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Ecem İpekçi. I've just graduated from Ege University, Department of International Relations. And before starting, I would like to say that it will be my first English presentation I will make in a long time, so I'm a little bit excited about it. And today I will present you my research about the impacts of energy resources in the Eastern Mediterranean on Cyprus problem. Now I'm gonna share my presentation. Okay. Today, I would like to start my presentation by stating the geopolitical and geostrategic importance of Cyprus. Since the Cyprus conflict is a very complex issue, after briefly mentioning the parts directly related to our topic, and then I will talk about the discovery of Eastern Mediterranean energy sources. Then I will try to complete the presentation with the possible effects of the of Eastern Mediterranean energy resources on the status of Cyprus. First of all, when we look at the world map, it's possible to see the Mediterranean Sea is located in the center of the world. And the Mediterranean basin contains important ports such as Sicilian Canal, the Strait of Gibraltar, the Suez Canal, and the Turkish Straits, which NATO defines as a checkpoint and also offers economic privilege to the basin. And due to the increasing energy trade today, intensive ship trade through these narrow waterways has made the Mediterranean and in this passable sea road in the geographic sense. And we can divide the Mediterranean Sea into two different regions, the Western Mediterranean and the Eastern Mediterranean. And the Eastern Mediterranean, otherwise known as the Levant Basin, is defined as the coastal region where Turkey, Egypt, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, and the Greek administration of Southern Cyprus. And as we know, Cyprus Island is the largest island in the Mediterranean Sea after the islands of Sicily and Sardinia. Unlike the other two islands, Cyprus is not a single and whole island. It has been the center of an unresolved problems more than half a century. And the Cyprus problem is one of the main issues that guide Turkish foreign policy, as well as the issue that the UN has been trying to solve for the longest time after Palestine and Kashmir. And the Cyprus problem, as you know, it's a really complex conflict. That's why I would like to just I would like to make the presentation shortly about the Cyprus problem. First of all, the islands of Cyprus came under the Ottoman rule in 1571 and came under the British control in 1878. And the interest of the Republic of Turkey in the problems on the island has increased even more, especially since the Greek terrorist organization IOCA began terrorist acts on the islands 1950 and 55. Although the Greeks wanted the islands to be included in Greece within the framework of the Megalo Idea and Enosis, the Turks also published the Taksim thesis, which envisaged the transformation of the islands into a bicommunal and bi-state structure, and the Turkish resistance organization was organized and began to respond to the attacks. In 1955, at the initiative of the United Kingdom, a conference was held in London, attended by the United Kingdom, Greece, and Turkey, but no compromise was reached. However, Turkey had legally acquired the status of an official party on the island of Cyprus. It's important. And in 1959, the Treaty of Zurich and the Treaty of London were signed. The bicommunal Republic of Cyprus was officially established by the constitution that came into force on August 16, 1960. Due to the incompatibility of the wishes of the parties and the confrontational attitude of the Greeks, a solution was again not achieved. Due to the insufficient efforts of Turkish Cyprus to defend against conflict, Turkey carried out two peace operations in 1974 to ensure the presence of Turks on the island. In this process, Greece, which obtained the right to full membership in the EU in 1983, has tried to create problems in Turkey's EU membership process by putting forward the Cyprus issue, Cyprus conflict. And in 2003, with the Greek administration of Southern Cyprus becoming a member of the EU, representing the entire island, and the Cyprus issue has become more of an issue between Turkey and the EU than an issue between Turkey and the United Kingdom and the Greece. The EU has been stipulating that the Cyprus issue should be resolved in its membership negotiations with Turkey. On the one hand, the accession of the Greek side of Cyprus to the EU took place, and on the other hand, the Cyprus negotiations continued on the initiative of UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. And Kofi Annan prepared the Annan Plan, which ensures the equality of Turks on the island with Greeks, with a federation consisting of two constituent states in 2002. The Greeks rejected the plan, 76% of the votes, while the Turkish accepted with the 65 of the votes, dispute a significant territorial losses. For more than 50 years, the world has witnessed a long-running political deadlock over Cyprus. To date, a large part of the international community, specifically Turkish Cyprus, Greece Cyprus, Turkey, Greece, the United Kingdom, the UN and the EU and the US, has been engaged in the process of settlement talks over the de facto divided island, each with its own roles and interests. The Crans-Montana talks and reunifying the island failed 4 years ago, and the 5.1 informational talks at the UN in Geneva, Switzerland, last April also ended with a declaration of no common ground, in large part due to the fragile balancing act between Turkey and Greece, rooted in long-lasting entanglements and seemingly insurmountable disagreements. Now the second part of my presentation is about the discovery of energy resources of the Eastern Mediterranean. As all we know, the great energy resources in the Eastern Mediterranean basin entered the International Energy Agenda in the 2000s. But the Greek administration of Southern Cyprus, led by the Spyros Kyprianou, took the first step in 1979 when it signed an oil exploration agreement with Egypt. After the Turkish side stated that this was a reason for a war, and the search efforts was stopped. However, with the recent deceleration of the issue, natural gas and oil exploration activities have started again. Now here, I would like to mention about the exclusive economic zone definition. And according to UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, the exclusive economic zone gives the coastal state the right to use and operate living and inanimate natural resources, starting from the territorial waters of the states and continuing for 200 miles. And however, in the Eastern Mediterranean basin, the exclusive economic zone areas of the riparian states concede, and countries can conclude agreements on the use of these common areas. According to the convention, none of the countries in the region has the right to sovereignty over the entire region in a way that excludes other countries. Greek administration of the Southern Cyprus, located in the middle of the Eastern Mediterranean basin, declared its exclusive economic zone in 2004 after discovering that there were energy sources in the region. After that, it began to sign agreements with the countries of the region aimed at the operation and sharing of these energy resources despite the opposition of Turkey. The Greek side started to seismic survey on the seabed in 2005 and signed agreements with Egypt, Lebanon, and Israel. In response to these initiatives, Turkey has made an agreement with Libya and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus due to the fact that the countries of the region have implemented the policy of isolation. And despite the objections of Turkey, Greek side continued to drilling activities in the region where it had previously licensed alone on the same days. However, it has also taken the path of objecting to seismic survey conducted in accordance with the license granted by the Turkish side to the Turkish Petroleum Corporation before the UN. Possible effects of Eastern Mediterranean energy resources on the status of Cyprus. First of all, the discovery of these sources and accompanying the problems directly or indirectly affects the status of the islands of Cyprus, which is of vital importance in the Eastern Mediterranean region. The Greek side has tried to internationalize the problem by having foreign states deal with this region with rich energy resources and by having foreign states license their companies to drill. And these attempts to break the power to Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus has also evaluated the status of the island created in the agreements of 1959 and 60. And the Greeks, and we can evaluate the effects of the energy resources discovered around the islands from the point of view of Turkey in the context of the energy hub or corridor policy that Turkey has been pursuing in the past. The transportation of energy resources, handling and designing of transmission line owned by the transport infrastructure, constructing and operating of related experiences, for example, Blue Stream pipeline, Kerkük-Ceylan, Bakü-Tiflis-Ceylan pipeline in the area of energy resources includes opening world markets through Turkey to Europe. It's likely that Turkey's efforts will also support its thesis on Cyprus to find supporters. At the same time, and the fact that Turkey is one of the largest consumers of fossil fuels in the region makes Turkey a major market in terms of resources discovered in the region. Extraction and operation of these resources, which have a high market value and are all located in marine deposits, require large cost investments. As it's clear from the effects of the Arab Spring and aftermath, which led to political, cultural, and economic instability in many Mediterranean countries or Middle Eastern countries, it's imperative to establish peace between the countries of the Eastern Mediterranean region. Depending on the region's goal of establishing peaceful relations based on the sharing of these resources, it can be envisaged that the Cyprus problem will also be resolved provided that mutual interests are protected. In particular, it's important in terms of the potential of the steps that Turkey will take on energy supply security to affect the approach of the participating countries to the issue. In addition to these past problems of discovering energy resources in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Cyprus conflict, the problem of fair and balanced sharing of energy resources has added. We can say that Europe, which has a large energy deficit, has started to evaluate the need for energy resources to come through safe means within the framework of the energy needs of the Cyprus conflict in the 2000s. In terms of the access of the European Union to safe energy resources with its stable political structure in the region and its strong infrastructure or energy transmission lines, it's envisaged that the EU will meet at a point that will harm the Cyprus thesis in the solution of the Cyprus problem in the coming periods. And also I add the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Due to the crisis, the EU's access to energy resources originating from Russia has become safe due to the war, has become far from safe due to the war. Terrorism in the destabilizing countries such as Syria, Iraq, in the Middle East region, and the fact that other problems threaten the security of energy supply increases the importance and urgency of solving the Cyprus problem. In particular, it's important in terms of the potential of the steps that Turkey will take on energy supply security to affect the approach of the participating countries to the issue. Thank you for your attention and listening to me. If you have a question or if you want to add something, I would like to answer it at the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I totally agree. After the Russian-Ukrainian war, Eastern Mediterranean resources would be very crucial to diversify the European energy and gas needs, although the Cypriot ones will not be enough for that. I mean, they can supplement European or Turkish resources, but at the moment they are not that high to help the European gas consumption significantly. Altogether, Eastern Mediterranean gas it's a different topic, but the Cypriot resources are currently quite low for that, but we will come back to this topic. The next speaker will be Ayşe Ecemmete. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. And the title of the presentation, The Effect of Ethno-Nationalist Symbols on the Identity Construction of Republic of Srpska Society.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
I will just
the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a nice day, everyone, by the way. I will just share my presentation so that I can start. First of all, welcome. My name is Ayşe Ecemmete. I am studying at Marmara University in the Department of Political Science and International Relations. I am a senior student. Today, I will present to you my paper about the effect of ethno-nationalist symbols on the identity construction of Republic of Srpska Society. So, first of all, I will start with my research question. By examining the political organization in the Republic of Srpska, actually, my study tries to explore what type of nationalism Republic of Srpska has. And first of all, start with nationalism debates. After that, assess whether Serbian nationalism in the region and also ethnic nationalism straighten the separatist tendencies of the region society. I am also adding as a question to federal system level and also discussing that on agreement, is it straight into secessionist movements or also ideologies in the Republic of
Sorry to interrupt you, just we cannot see your slides. I mean, we can see it, but they're not changing.
Can you see it now?
We can see the slides, but still just the title page.
Okay, I'm just changing it, but it's not maybe. Can you see it now, maybe?
Okay,
like
I will. It'll be okay.
Okay, I will continue like that, actually. So my first question is, what type of nationalism we are observing in Republic of Srpska? We can say that actually it is ethnic nationalism, first of all. It is state-supporting and also it is cultural nationalism. We can also add religious and also language nationalism on it. It is also ideological nationalism, according to debates. First of all, generally, I will just talk about Serbian nationalism. Serbian nationalism in the area, actually, as we can just observe, national conservatist ideology. And also we can say that it is just like after the 1990s, much more close to German nationalism, actually. And so I will talk about also Dayton Peace Agreement. This agreement is important because it is an interventionist peace agreement aiming ending the Bosnian War in 1990s, and key players were Tudman, Izetbegovic, and Milosevic. And there is a dilemma in here because Tudman actually were the president of Croatia, Milosevic were the president of Serbia, and these presidents were also were also representing the identities in the area, actually, the people in the area. Although Izetbegovic is like representing the Bosniaks who are living in that area. The Serb-dominated entity Republika Srpska have the control of 49% of the territory, and Croat Bosniak-dominated entity of Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina have the control of 51 of the territory according to Dayton Agreement. And also we can observe in the political structure of Bosnia, it is federal state. And also you can see Republika Srpska has two geographical dimensions, and Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And also nowadays we're also thinking about Brčko region. It's not that much clear yet. When we examine the political structure of especially Srpska, we can see that it is much more centralized compared to the federation part, and acting as a unitary state according to federation side. Capital of Srpska actually Banja Luka, and ethnic group. When we examine the ethnic groups, which is quite important in here, 81% of them Serbs, only 13% of them Bosniaks, and we can see just like 2% of them Croats and 1% of them other entities. In my research, I also asked the question, is Serbian nationalism still in effect in that area? Because nowadays we're also discussing it, especially Dodik's calls about secessionist movements, and also the High Representative's comments on Bosnia. And we can also see the similarities and also differences between the flags. I was also trying to emphasize identity. For example, you can see Russian, Serbian, and also Republic of Srpska's flags in here, and you can see the differences. And maybe you can understand that in terms of religious understanding. They have much more closer relations, and therefore, for example, the Republic of Srpska side don't want to enter the NATO, or they're just like much more conservative about European Union, and they want much more close relationships with Russia. But this actually unified just like thoughts about what will be happen in the future of our country, and the three different presidents actually causing a problem, and they don't have a common idea about what will happen in the future, because it is quite problematic to be unified in terms of one idea. And you can see some news about what's happening in Bosnia, why we're discussing about nowadays. So in my question seconds, I just ask identification problem. And first of all, there are four different ways to define yourself in English if you're a Bosnian. For example, you can just say something like, where are you from? I'm from Bosnia. You can say Bosniak, Serbia, I am Serb, I am Croatian, and actually who are Bosnians. And also it is quite problematic to define for example, language. In the Constitution of Republic of Srpska, you can see that there's written something like the language of the Bosniak people, the language of the Serbian people, language of the Croatian people, and there is no unified name. What is this language actually? Three of them, because of that identity politics saying that our language is different. Actually, according to linguistic perspective, it's not a different language, it is the same. And called as Serbo-Croatian because it is like a continuum, beginning from Serbia and continuing through the Croatia. You can see in the linguistic text it is Serbo-Croatian. It is the same language, but defining the same language in another name, it's quite problematic, because for Bosniak people it is Bosniak language, for Serbian people it is just like Serbian language. So I'm just discussing about these problems. My methodology of the research actually qualitative and quantitative. As a quantitative data, I utilize survey research. A survey answered by a specific university in the Republic of Srpska. I am not giving the name of university because I think I need to ethical confirmation from them so that I can just talk about it. It's just actually reached almost 100 students, and aiming to share these results with 90% confidence interval because the university population is almost 11,000. Article is also informative and interpretive, is also focusing inductive research method. Aims of the survey, actually, I just try to find that identification problem in Republic of Srpska, and just questionnaire shows whether students find the Dayton Agreement effective or not, makes inferences based on percentage of separatist status quo or also innovative political ideas. Based on available the data, tries to make inferences about the reflection of the degree of affinity of the university students with Serbia. These ties may be kindship relations, ideological closeness, or the perception of the country's level of development on their political perceptions and also ideologies. My first question was asking like, what is your ethnicity? And my second question was, if you want to define yourself, how can you define yourself? And I just add Bosnian, Bosniak, Serbian, Croatian, and other. And just like between 99 responses, just like 7% of them just said, I am Bosnian, although most of them prefer to define themselves in terms of their ethnicity. And it is showing that Bosnian statehood actually is quite low. And I also asked them, these are university students, so younger generation, do you care about your religion? And as you can see, most of them just like rated between 3 and 5. My fourth question actually just asked your religion, because most of the students in that area are just from Serb entities, so they just say that they're just like Orthodox Christians, and you can see the differences, and it is just almost hardly to see any Bosniak who are just like studying here, because it is just probably most of the people don't prefer to study in Banja Luka if you're especially Bosniak. My fifth question actually was, do you have any friends or family connections and other connections with Serbia? If you rate this, how can you rate this? And as you can see, most of them are just say that I have a close relations with Serbia from 3 to 5. It is hardly to see 1 or 2 actually. My sixth question was focusing on Dayton settlement. Do you find this effective or not? And most of them were just like neutral about it. They said, okay, it's just like not so bad, not so good. But my question 7 is also show that when I ask them, do you support independent Republic of Srpska or just like support unification of Republic of Srpska and Serbia? And if you support the current status quo within Bosnia and Herzegovina? And most of them actually just were unclear about it. And we can see that almost 60% of the students are uncomfortable with the situation. And some of them are just like wanting the independent Republic of Srpska in autonomous way. Some of them are also supporting the unification of Republic of Srpska. And the people who are just like supporting current status quo in that area, just like 34%. My further question was focusing on their further education attempts. If you want to go or some, do you prefer to study in Serbia? If it is yes, why? And I was just trying to understand what is their aims to go, for example, to study in Serbia. It is just like maybe include some ideological closeness. And they say that actually they were unclear about it. They were also think that like Bosnia, Serbia is not a that well country, and education system compared to Bosnia Herzegovina is just like maybe a little bit okay. And just like quite low percent of them say that maybe it's not low actually. Just like 14% of them say that I feel myself close to Serbia because of that I want to study in Serbia. It's just like maybe sense of belonging. In my conclusion, actually, research have found that effects of ethno-nationalism reflected on the political structure and identity construction period of Republic of Srpska. And I just made further aim about when they founded Republic of Srpska, what kind of symbols so that they can create that nationhood process they have used actually. Secondly, article examined the effects of workhouses and results of identity construction teams, and asked how people define themselves. It is just like important theme of identity construction, and concluded that Bosnian statehood understanding, the unified understanding, is quite low. And also, in my article, I am supporting that Dayton Agreement and also this federal structure and also borders are also supporting the, for example, between the regions, just like unification of same ethnicities living together, just like pushing them to live together. And thirdly, and the end, in focusing on the current objectives of political structure by discussing Dayton Agreement and inquired the agreement's negative effects for disintegration discourses and why nowadays, especially Republic of Srpska, they're just like talking about Dayton Agreement is not effective, maybe we should change it. And as we can see it, Bosnia-Herzegovina is not in the stable situation, just like most of the EU officials are just like saying. They are not continuing to stability. And yeah, maybe Dayton agreements were not just like aiming to create an amazing system for all of them. It was aiming to stop the war. It stopped the war, it stopped the tension, but it is just so obvious that it's not working. Maybe it needed to be changed, and how this will be happen, it is quite problematic. My article mainly focusing on these questions. Thank you for listening, and also thank you for your attention. I hope I didn't exceed the limit of speaking.
No, not at all. Thank you very much for keeping the time frame. Thank you for the presentation. I mean, it will be an interesting question that how to change this framework if it isn't currently not working. And this is one question I will ask later, but it was also interesting to see that actually you asked a university student in this survey. So I guess the whole society, if you ask the whole society, the responses would be much more one-sided. Usually, you know, university students are open-minded compared to the rest of the society. So we will have an interesting discussion on that issue later. Thank you. And our last speaker, Mustafa Burak Şener, and the title of the presentation, Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean Policy in a Geoeconomic Perspective. Burak, the floor is yours. And again, you have 50 minutes.
Sure, Professor. I'm just trying to open my camera, but I couldn't succeed. Ah, yes. Now you can see me.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, that's great. Hello, everyone. My name is Mustafa Burak Şener. I'm the student of Edward Laurent University, doctoral school, under the supervision of Dr. Bayra Paramasandra. And also I am a research organization coordinator of TUİÇ Academy. Today I am going to present Hungarian Eastern Mediterranean Policy in Geoeconomic Perspective. By the way, my internet could not be sustained. If there will be any problem, please just tell me. So first of all, I would like to start with my introduction and method. When we look at the Eastern Mediterranean, Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean policy, there are some facts. First, Hungary is one of the most neutral countries in Europe in the Eastern Mediterranean issue. And in this direction, it continues its relatively moderate policy towards Turkey. And second fact is that intensive hydrocarbon reserves in the Eastern Mediterranean and the relations with Turkey are important for Hungary's economy. Therefore, for Hungary, both the Eastern Mediterranean and Turkey have an importance from geoeconomic perspective. And accordingly, this study will seek to answer the question of what is Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean policy from a geoeconomic perspective. Thus, the reason for Hungary's moderate policies in the Eastern Mediterranean will be tried to be explained. And in this regard, Hungary's policy on the Eastern Mediterranean and accordingly, Turkey will be evaluated from the geoeconomic perspective. As a method, in order to understand Hungarian economic policy in the region, foreign policy and political discourse analysis will be used. So, yes. I think before starting, in order to better understand, I would like to very briefly explain important concepts of my study, because I believe those are important in order to understand what we talk about. First of all, I would like to start with geopolitics. It can be defined as all factors that affect state policy based on geography, and geoeconomics emphasize economic means to achieve geopolitical goals or how geopolitical power is used for financial purposes. So here we can think geoeconomics is a subfield of geopolitics. So discourse analysis is a perspective on the social life consisting of methodological and conceptual elements, and it characterized as a way of thinking about discourses and data. And political discourse analysis can be defined as the analysis of the politically related discourse of politicians. And according to Van Dijk, who can be accepted of the founder of political discourse analysis, political discourses provide essential information about the current station of the countries. These political decisions can also be effective in making official decisions to achieve specific political goals and objectives. And I would like to continue with Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean policy in geoeconomic perspective. When we look at that, the point of economic point of view, it's bilateral. The first is policies pursued by Hungary with geoeconomic importance of the Eastern Mediterranean, and the second is Hungary's policy towards the Eastern Mediterranean issue due to Turkey's geoeconomic significance. I am going to first examine Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean policy and then analyze Hungary's attitude towards the Eastern Mediterranean issue throughout Hungary-Turkey relations. Geoeconomic importance of Eastern Mediterranean, I would like to continue with that. Today, the Eastern Mediterranean shapes the geoeconomic policy of states due to the increasing importance of hydrocarbon reserves. In particular, it's a great importance to the EU, which wants to diversify its hydrocarbon reserves. So in here, while some members take pro-Greece and pro-Greek Cypriot stances, states such as Germany, Spain, and Hungary take more neutral states. According to my research, and I believe that among these states, Hungary is likely the most neutral country because considering the importance of large hydrocarbon reserves in the Eastern Mediterranean region, Hungary believes that the mutual dialogue is the most important solution. As I said, I will use the political discourse analysis. So in this regard, Hungarian Foreign Minister, I hope my pronunciation is correct, Peter C. Arto, you can also see him from the right upper side of my slide, called for dialogue with his counterparts from Turkey, Greece, and Greek Cyprus last year, and offered solidarity for energy resources. Siarti states this situation, as you can see my slide, exactly his words. I hope common sense will prevail and dialogue will lead a solution rather than mutual threats and sanctions. And Hungary frequently reiterates its offer of mediation to reduce tension in the region and states that it does not support unilateral sanctions against Turkey. And in addition, Hungary states that the Eastern Mediterranean problem needs a more comprehensive solution, and that excluding Turkey will not yield any result. I hope my pronunciation is correct again. Marton Göngösi, you can also see him from my downside of my slide, right downside of my slide. The Hungarian member of the European Parliament state that the problem was more profound and that Greece and Greek Cypriot followed the wrong policy with the following words. He exactly said that many EU officials and European representatives failed to see real problem in the Eastern Mediterranean. And Greece and the Greek Cypriot sides are waiting for solidarity from the EU members to exclude Turkey. So he also underlined that this policy could isolate Turkey from the EU, and it would be lost for the EU. And when we look at the Turkey-Hungary relation in geoeconomic perspective, the trading volume of two countries, Hungary's opening to East policy, and its desire to prevent irregular migrant flows are factors that increase Turkey's geoeconomic significance. So here, I would like to first start with the trade volume of two countries. It was aimed to increase the trade volume of two countries to $6 million in 2018, and the trade volume, which reached $2.5 million in 2018, reached $2.7 million by 2020. Although it is behind the aim number, the trade volume between the two countries is constantly increasing. And also in 2020, Peter Szijjártó explained Hungary's attitude towards Turkey position in the Eastern Mediterranean as follows. We never interfere in the country's internal affairs, and Turkey does not comment or take position on our internal issues. We also have a significant commercial relations. Major Turkish investors are making significant investments in Hungary. Our relationship based on logic, respect, and non-interference in each other's internal affairs. And also in his speech, Minister Szijjártó noted that Turkey will soon become one of the 10 most powerful economies in the world and urged that the EU should abandon its hypocritical attitude towards Turkey regarding the Eastern Mediterranean issue. Similarly, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban emphasized that Turkey will be among the top 10 economies in the world, similar to Szijjártó, and Europe needs Turkey. You can see Mr. Erdogan and President Mr. Erdogan and Prime Minister Viktor Orban on the right side of my slide as well. So after that, I would like to continue with the Eastern opening policy of Hungary, which is connected to the Turkey and Hungary's geoeconomic policy, and it's directly affected the Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean policy, I believe. So in recent years, Hungary has made a significant initiatives in its foreign policy. Budapest, whose problems with the EU have deepened, has started to seek a more independent foreign policy from the Union. And in the context of the Eastern opening policy, it has turned to improve its economic and political relations with the Middle Eastern and distant Asian countries, especially Russia, China, and Turkey. And in this regard, in December 2013, Hungary opened a trading house in Istanbul, and in 2015, Hungarian Exim Bank opened an office in Istanbul, and currently there are trading houses in various cities of Turkey. And the following words of Orban confirmed the importance of Turkey in the project of the Eastern Mediterranean opening policy. Hungary should take into, I'm exactly reading the Orban's words, Hungary should take into account the attitude of three capitals, Berlin, Moscow, and Ankara, when determining its foreign policy, because these three great powers have held an important place in the fate of Hungary for centuries. And also, Turkey Council is very important for Hungary in terms of the Eastern opening policy. Orban always stressed that geopolitical importance of Turkish countries in terms of economic relations and capacity. In here, I would like to remind that Turkey is very important in order to penetrate Turkic countries for Hungary. And furthermore, Budapest and Ankara have been two administrations with shared interest and common perspective on energy. And within the scope of this policy, Hungary has a positive view of the Turkish Stream project extended from Russia to Turkey and wishes from the line to be extended further and pass over its border. You can see project in detail in my slide. As you can see, it's not directly clashing on Turkish borders, but the gas is coming from Russia, and the name of the project is Turkish Stream, and both countries have a common interest in terms of having hydrocarbon reserves and sharing energy resources. So finally, I would like to mention about irregular migration flows, because one of the main objectives of Hungarian foreign policy is to prevent the flow of migrants. And I would like to elaborate what is the connection of irregular migration flow and Hungary's geoeconomic policy. Generally, Hungary hesitates illegal migration because they believe it harms the cultural and political identity of Hungary, but there are also economical concerns. The flow of migrants has a quite adverse effect on the economy. Services such as medical, social, public, education, nutrition are limited with the state's capacity. Therefore, in cases where the flow of migrants destabilize the increase of the population, the institution and economic systems of the state may not be able to meet these demands. And in addition, since many immigrants are willing to work for low wages, unemployment can be caused by the current working citizens taking their jobs. And I think Turkey is a very good example for this situation, since there are many immigrants in Turkey. the unemployment is rising. One of the reasons of why unemployment is rising in Turkey. And there are also several reasons that explain adverse effects of irregular migration on economy, but I won't be explain them in detail. But we can see that irregular migration flows also affected in badly economy to countries. And when we look at the Turkish strategic position, it's very important. So people from the third world countries, especially Syria and Afghanistan, who wanted to immigrate to Europe illegally, aim to reach Greece through Turkey, and then into Europe via Albania, Serbia, and Hungary, respectively. You can see the road of immigrants on the illustration in my slide. This situation reveals the geopolitical importance of Turkey in the context of the EU's migration policy. Here, Hungary is aware of the importance of Turkey's strategic position. Hungary, which perceives the migrants flow as severe threat, is also shaping its Eastern Mediterranean policy in this direction. This is evident from rhetoric of Hungarian politicians. For example, Mr. Orban, as you remember, he is Prime Minister of Hungary, state that Turkey has great importance in stopping the illegal migrant flows to Hungary, and flow of illegal immigrants to Hungary and the stability of Turkey is directly related to this issue. And also, Peter Szijjártó mentioned the importance of Turkey in stopping the flow of migrants into Hungary in 2019 in same speech. And Szijjártó highlighted that they were trying to ensure dialogue between EU members and Turkey regarding the tension created by the Eastern Mediterranean crisis, and note that the double standards and hypocrisy towers should be decimated. As you can see here, that there is in same speech, Szijjártó first talking about the illegal immigration flows and its dangers, and secondly talking about the Turkey's strategic position, and then saying the Eastern Mediterranean crisis and tension should be reduced and hypocrisy should be decimated. And finally, and finally, I would like to continue. I would like to mention about my conclusion, which is my study. When we look at the situation, European Union is unable to develop a common consensus, and Hungary follows the most neutral policy towards Turkey, because Hungary's geoeconomic policy on the Eastern Mediterranean is seen as a bilateral in the form of geoeconomic importance of the Eastern Mediterranean and Turkey. It has been found that these factors directly shape Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean policy. So in this regard, Hungary, which wants to take advantage of this potential of Eastern Mediterranean, adopts the mutual win-win principle instead of confronting Turkey. I believe Hungary is aware that excluding Turkey would harm the economic return of the region. And we can say that Turkey is a good economic partner for Hungary. When the rhetoric of the Hungarian politicians is examined, this commercial capacity is significant in determining Hungary's relations with Turkey. In the same way, Turkey is one of the central countries in the Eastern Opening project due to its political and geopolitical importance. And in order to prevent migrant flow to Hungary, Turkey's geographical location is critical. As the rhetoric of Hungarian politicians demonstrate, this is also determinant of the Hungary's geoeconomic policy. So in this context, Turkey's strategic importance and its role as a buffer zone for migrants directly affects Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean policy. And by examining the discourses of the Hungarian politicians and policies of Hungary as well, the study concluded that the geoeconomic importance of Turkey and the Eastern Mediterranean region directly shape the Hungary's Eastern Mediterranean policy, and therefore Hungary pursues a more moderate policy among the EU states. Thank you very much for listening to me. Here you can see my references. If you have a question, I would like to answer them.
Thank you very much, Burak. Good to see that one of my former students. It's such an interesting presentation. Congratulations. Just one more before I open the floor for questions. One additional comment. Everything what you said is accurate, but after the Ukrainian-Russian war, issues on or perceptions on Hungarian migration policies should be changed. The previous week, Hungary accepted some 163,000 of Ukrainian refugees, which is shocking, especially if we compare the Hungarian migration policies in the previous years. I mean, probably when you finish your dissertation, this traditional view on Hungarian migration policy has to be changed or at least modified. We will come back to this topic, but first of all, I would like to open the floor for questions and discussions. First of all, I would like to ask the audience if they have any question to ask or any comments to add. We have a question from Alexander addressed to Ecem. Ecem, how can you explain that in East Med confrontation in 2020, Turkey isolated herself and left alone? Turkey allied herself with only two ghost states, the TRNC and the Libyan al-Sarraj government. So this is the first. And the second, and find herself opposite to Greece, Cyprus, Egypt, Israel, France, United Arab Emirates, EU, and US. Why Turkey not accept UN Convention on Law of the Sea, 1982, as the base to define maritime zones like the exclusive economic zones.
Okay. First of all, I'm gonna read again. Yes, according to UN Convention on Law of the Sea, I think the problem is here. The exclusive economic zone can match here. Yes, if you want to add my answer, I will be happy because I'm not prepared for the question.
Okay, Burak, you want to add something?
Yes, first of all, thank you very much, Alexander Karapiperis, for your question. I think my pronunciation is correct. I would like to answer your question of course, with my knowledge. I don't believe that Turkey is not isolating itself from the East Med confrontation in 2020, because according to this project is abusing Turkey's rights. So that if any of countries trying to abusing right of the country's rights, they don't have to accept those policies. So I don't believe Turkey is isolating itself. I believe that the coastal states isolating of Turkey, and connected to your question, I would like to also answer that Turkey allied herself with only two ghost states. I definitely don't believe you, because maybe Republic Northern Cyprus could be undefined country in international area. Libya is a government that United Nations defined. So when we look at the United Nations, it's a government which is recognized by the UN agreement. So Libya government is completely official. So if we say that it's a ghost state, it wouldn't be correct according to United Nations established agreement. So regarding the Turkish Republic Northern Cyprus, I would like to say that I think the island needs more comprehensive solution. So I think the agreement between Turkey and Republic Turkey of Northern Cyprus was a reaction of excluding Turkey from the Eastern Mediterranean. I believe Turkey also wants to have a solution for the Cyprus problem, because as a Turkish, we are saying that Cyprus problem, because we are also seeing that it's a problem. It needs a comprehensive solution. While saying ghost states or etc. things is not bring solution. I just would like to remind that. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you. HM, do you want to react?
No, actually, I couldn't answer. I couldn't create a sentence in English. But I totally agree to Burak.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add something to this. Actually, this is a very long-standing debate between Greeks and Turks related to the Aegean conflict, related to the Eastern Mediterranean, and I heard this debate several times. And I mean, we can discuss international law, we can discuss everything, but unfortunately, the reality is totally different. I mean, Turkey is not part of this Sea Convention, which means that you cannot enforce such kind of regulations. Meaning, and actually Greece did this, and the Republic of Cyprus did this several times, that you have to make bilateral agreements with other coastal countries and basically agree what is the border of the exclusive economic zones. And I think it would be much more I mean, it would be better to find some kind of common ground between Greece and Turkey and the Republic of Cyprus and Turkey on that issue. I mean, to solve this issue bilaterally, find some kind of common ground, some kind of compromise with the involvement of UN, with the involvement of maybe great powers, and finally solve this this issue by negotiation and compromise. This is, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time to do that. I mean, the Greek Cypriots made agreements with Israel, with Egypt. Greece made, agreements with Italy and other countries. So bilateral negotiation is needed. Yeah, there are international laws and international regulations in this case, but obviously they are not working. So I think it would be much more comprehensive to find kind of common ground, or maybe this is not the best word, but find a kind of median line in this case. And then when I say median line, I don't mean the exclusive economic zone, but maybe a median line in terms of policy. All right. Any other question from the audience, which means, as far as I see, only Busra, because we are 6. Okay, then I would like to just ask some specific questions. Let's continue with Ayşe. Okay. What do you think about the possible survival of the Bosniak state? Do you think that the Bosniak state, as we know it today, can be maintained? And if yes, then what changes should be made?
Thank you for your question. Actually, first change can be the revision of Dayton Agreement. First of all, it's annulled. It was also like a transitional agreement that posted by this interventionist powers. And also maybe it is not something nice to have, for example, have an autonomous power, for example, like high representative over a country, because it is just like confrontation, something like Bosnia still doesn't have its own autonomy in terms of that, because it has control of other powers. So first of all, it is problematic because war is ended. Bosnia has to be survived and it has to be on its own. So secondly, I was most of the time emphasizing on it. This nationalism should be reduced, because it was the cause of the war. It's like one of the most important cause of the war, and it is still continuing. It is problematic. So how they can unify under an idea? How can they define themselves? And as a country, as a statehood, is quite problematic. And I can just recommend that kind of changes. Actually, some specific changes in the Dayton agreements. and also reducing that identification clashes between the people. And also Dayton Agreement's division of the regions are also problematic. And also we should add that Republic of Srpska actually agreed on Dayton Agreement just because of it was knowing that it will have some autonomy within the region. You know, there will be Republic of Srpska, something like that. So that's these are my actually suggestions about it. Maybe that should be revised actually.
Mm. Do you think that, I don't know, it's not a possibility at the moment, but do you think that Serbia joining the European Union would reduce tensions?
Yeah.
Or the opposite?
Yeah, if they accept Serbia to European Union, it's also, for example, courage Republic of Srpska, you know, just like officials to also joining European Union, because Serbia is most of the time in terms of foreign policy standing with Russia because of most of the time religious, just like closeness with that countries. And if they accept Serbia, probably they want to follow it. Maybe that will be reduced. And nowadays we're also talking about rising nationalism, especially within the Republic of Srpska. It can be an attempt to reduce it actually, but it is also problematic to end Serbia to European Union. So not directly, for example, if we just accept Bosnia to European Union, it's also problematic because, for example, the Republic of Srpska people have some passports, the same passports like acting as a Serbian people, allowing them in terms of transition. That's kind of things actually problematic and should be, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, if Serbia supports such secessionist movements, the Serbian prospects for European Union membership will be much lesser and much smaller. Thank you. We will come back to this topic, but first of all, I would like to also ask Burak a question. You have mentioned the relationship, Hungary's relationship with Turkey, but how this neutral stance of the Hungarian foreign policy towards Turkey affect the Hungarian relations with other Eastern Mediterranean countries, more precisely the Greek and Greek Cypriot relations with Hungary?
In here, my 30 years, and as far as I see in foreign policy of Hungary, Hungary is a very smart country, because generally Hungary is using a language of trying to be support every country and trying to be neutral in every position. But as far as I know, Hungary's policy towards Greece and Greece Cyprus or Cyprus, they are also trying to be neutral in this part, and they are trying to emphasize that Hungary is trying to emphasize that, okay, we are in the same union, but let's try to find a common solution, because excluding Turkey will not bring any solution. So emphasizing that is also showing that Hungary is also showing that it's neutral. So I think it's not adverse. It's not bringing any negative effects on Hungary and Greece relationship. As far as I know, for example, in the EU summit, Hungary didn't make anything, just trying to continue its more neutral policy. Hungary is not taking stance with Turkey, but trying to be neutral. So it's not affecting in badly Hungary's relationship with Greece and Greek Cyprus as well.
I agree, and it is quite interesting, and maybe we should add and emphasize that the Hungary's Eastern opening doesn't mean that doesn't mean that the country neglect the European Union or the NATO. I mean, the Euro-Atlantic direction still remains a cornerstone of the Hungarian foreign policy. However, we should add that due to many reasons, Hungary basically decided to diversify its foreign policy. In it, Turkey has a very important role, but it doesn't mean that Greece and Cyprus has no importance. And I would like to also just add that this is not a Hungarian issue. I mean, we just finished a research where we compared foreign policies of several countries in the eastern flank of the European Union: Greece, Cyprus, Bulgaria, and Hungary. And actually, we found that all of them diversified their foreign policies in the previous years, previous decade, basically. They diversified their policies for different reasons and with different results, but all of them try to, open towards China, open towards Russia, open towards Turkey in the case of Bulgaria, especially, and Hungary. And this is not a Hungarian specificity. I mean, other countries are doing the same. We are actually living in an era where the world is, the global system is changing from a unipolar one to a multipolar one. So it is completely normal to diversify the foreign policies and react to the other poles. And other poles mean not only great powers, but also regional powers. So we shouldn't expect that, small countries will not react and keep the, this unilateral Euro-Atlantic direction. It would be a kind of suicide in the changing international environment. And actually, connecting to this issue, I would like to just very briefly ask your opinion about the Ukrainian-Russian war, or the Russian-Ukrainian war. What do you think? How this war will affect your specific topics? We can start with Burak if you want. What do you think? How the Turkish-European, let's open the picture now. How the Turkish-European relations will change as a result of this new conflict?
I think Turkey's importance will be increased if the conflict is continued, because Turkey is one of the strongest member of NATO, and Turkey clearly declared that if he had to choose a side, he will choose NATO. So in here also Turkey might be a good partner for EU, but in here I have to indicate that in Turkey there is a huge skepticism on Europe now. And Turkey now trying to be more neutral in this position, since also Russia is our second import resources. That's why I believe Turkey will try to be more neutral, but try to be with Ukrainian, only with discourses. And I think this war will affect positively, because it's a great danger for Europe, because as you know, European continent is there is no mountain or something Russia might be invade easily. So it's a great risk for Europe. So I think there should be more cooperation between Turkey and European Union. They need to focus on it. But I'm seeing now opportunities, because there is a war situation. It's a really risk, and then countries might have a more cooperation in order to stop this aggression and in order to find a more cooperation.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a historical moment, what Turkey and the European Union could use. And definitely it is a historical moment to somehow try to resolve this 20th century type of conflicts between Turkey and different kind of European actors. And why we see why. I mean, the Ukrainian-Russian war is perfect demonstrate why we should solve these issues. Ecem, I have the same question to you. What do you think, how this new war would affect the Eastern Mediterranean gas affairs?
Okay, first of all, I want to start from that. The energy dimension of the crisis varies the West in two aspects, short term and the long term, and the possibility that Russia will use the sale of gas as a geopolitical weapon and cut off the flow of the gas to Europe throughout the Ukraine, as it did in 2006 and 2009, between then. And secondly, the European continent's full depends on Russia for energy supply continues. And the fact that for this situation, for this case, no statement has been received from Moscow to address the concern of Europe and that the military operations card for Ukraine is considered to be an element that increases the concerns. And of course, in this case, the issue of new energy sources and their safety is gaining importance. My conclusion in my presentation was the Cyprus, which is one of the main problems related to the sharing of Eastern Mediterranean energy resources and their transfer to Europe through Turkey. Could have a positive impact on solving the problem. But as I mentioned, energy is only part of the Cyprus conflict. However, I want to share a prediction when I was preparing the presentation. As the generations change, the events in Cyprus, the terrorist events, the war, or the Turkish attacks, will be difficult to remember by generation to generation. Because of it, it's estimated that it may be easier to meet at a common point in status of Cyprus and the other problems about the Eastern Mediterranean energy resources.
Thank you. So basically the new generations see the conflict much differently in this case, and they forget all the atrocities that their parents and grandparents lived through. Yeah, just going back to my question, I think again, the Ukrainian-Russian war actually is a very crucial moment in the Eastern Mediterranean gas affairs, especially the LNG prospects are quite great in this case. Some countries, including Turkey, actually developed large LNG capacities. And although we don't have pipelines to reach Europe from the Eastern Mediterranean, but definitely if Russia decides to reduce the gas quantity to Europe, which again it is a difficult question because it would harm the Russian economy. But if Russia decides, then definitely we have some opportunities in the Eastern Mediterranean, and we should use that, especially in the form of LNG. In the short run, in the long run, or in the mid run, definitely a pipeline network should help the whole process of European gas diversification. I don't see any, economic viability or technical viability of making pipeline between Cyprus, Greece, and Italy, but I see an economic viability of developing pipeline towards Turkey. This is the solution, and actually most of the experts, I'm not an expert on this topic, but most of the experts actually see that, that regional consumption, regional use of Eastern Mediterranean gas is much more economically viable. And I hope it will go to that direction. And last but not least, I would like to just ask Aisha the same question: how the Russian-Ukrainian war influenced the Bosniak statehood? Do you think that it will further destabilize it, or sort of reminds the citizens of the Balkan of the horrors and the consequences of the Yugoslav war?
I think that actually most of you mentioned about it. It's like a transition point because, for example, in Republic of Srpska, if they want to be autonomous region, they need to get, for example, some help from some allies, some countries. If they want to seek that kind of attempt, and probably these supporting powers will be Russia and also Serbia. And in terms of that, Russia is a trustable ally, especially when we're talking about the Ukrainian war and how it is against international law and distributing all of this international systems that we are just like examining and talking about. So it is not only in terms of, it's like aggression, it is not only a regression within the region. I think it will affect all of the structure. And it's just remind us how international relations and also that kind of conventions, agreements are important. And if we were talking about Bosnia and EU missions, OSCE missions, maybe it can remind all of the people that European Union is a wise solution, is a wise ally that will help them in terms of economical development. Because if Bosnia and Herzegovina want to be a developed country, it needs some, just like integrations, and also, how can I say, economically needs some reformation processes. Because when we talk about Bosnia and Herzegovina, again, as we have seen, like all of the history of economic to Malcolm Noel's like economic crisis during the Ottoman Empire, and nowadays they're just like witnessing the same thing. And most of the younger generation are just like thinking about this bad economic situation and what will happen. Maybe first of all, they should focus on it. They should revise that conservative and nationalist understanding. They just change it so that they can further more towards just like peace, or also for.
So you need a stable structure, first of all, maybe economic and social structure to maintain the state. Okay.
And to do that, actually, they have to be organized in one idea, because as you know, they have just like 3 different presidents, and it is just so hard to unify it in terms of just like one policy. They're always opposing themselves, and it's just like blocking the system, blocking the political structure, and they're not going further. First of all, they should, I think, get rid of that kind of understanding. They should realize that if they want to go further, they have to get rid of that perception of nationalism.
And actually the same goes to Cyprus, if we are going back to HM, because of the same problem. All right, unfortunately we need to finish our discussion because the next session is already waiting to present. Thank you very much for these very interesting presentations. I hope in the future we can continue in this Congress, and I wish you very successful, PhD studies. And if you need any help, any support, then my email address, or you can get my email address, and please send me an email. So have a nice day, everyone, and good job again.
Thank you very much, Professor, attending our conference. It was really good. It was really good for us. You directed great, and it was a really good session. We enjoyed it very much, and I hope we will have opportunity to host you in another events. Maybe the other colleagues doesn't know that Professor Katsuba was my supervisor during my master studies, also Bishra's as well. So it was a really good to see you again, Professor. Thank you very much again for coming to our event.
Yeah, let's repeat this in the future. Okay.
Hope so. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.